Hello. I'd like to first thank Mayor and Council for agreeing to our delegation request today. My name is Sebastian Saida. I'm an organizer with Friends of Bear Creek Park and president of Force of Nature. Perhaps my co-presenter would like to introduce herself.
Deb Jack, Surrey Environmental Partners, and Friends of Bear Creek Park.
All right, so the primary justification being offered for the 84th Avenue connector is the number of accidents at 88th and King George Boulevard. We're going to quickly move through a discussion of the data available to us to show that it is not as dangerous an intersection as being presented by the city, and that the city already has a plan to deal with it. A plan for this intersection that they haven't actually followed through on yet. It's important to know that all traffic stats are drawn from two sources of data, ICBC claims and the Police Traffic Accident System, or TAS. ICBC crash statistics are gathered through insurance claims. Intersection level data is publicly available, but only for the last 5 years. Crash severity is measured either by causing property damage or a casualty. In this case, a casualty is considered any visit to a hospital or a clinic as a result of a crash. On the other hand, the Police Traffic Accident System, the TAS, is gathered by police officers attending a crash. Intersection level statistics are not publicly available, and crash severity is determined by attending officers filling out a report, with overnight hospitalizations indicating a severe injury and anything less than that indicating a minor injury. On this slide, we have on the left an excerpt from the City of Surrey website, and on the right, we have a third-party social media post based on that information. What I want to focus on here are those 1,091 collisions that have resulted in people being injured or killed over the past 10 years. That number comes from ICBC data and therefore includes anyone who has ever been checked out at a hospital following a collision. I've been in 2 minor fender benders in the last decade. In both cases, I would have been counted as a casualty under ICBC's data collection procedures, despite suffering no injury beyond being somewhat sore for a day. You can see on the right here an example of a social media post which is added to public confusion. The 1,091 number appears again, but here it is said that this represents deaths or serious injuries. This is a conflation of ICBC statistics and the TAS, Traffic Accident System, killed or seriously injured metric, and is extremely disingenuous. Even city materials suggest that these casualties are KSI numbers, with phrases like 1 person killed or injured every 4 days. What they're actually reporting are casualty numbers from the ICBC statistics. The next thing I'd like to move on to is the report that accidents have increased by 20% over the last 10 years. Is this true? Well, let's look at the data. This chart graphs casualties at 88th Avenue and King George Boulevard from 2015 to 2019 using the same ICBC data found on the 84th Avenue Extension project page. The x-axis starts here at 2009, as that is the range being used by staff. The publicly available data for the past 5 years shows an absolute decrease, not an increase. What's more, if we plot a line of best fit to this publicly available data, we get the following, indicating a downward trend. While it may be the case that including data from 2009 to 2014 creates an upward trend, this goes against the standard 5-year window used when evaluating traffic statistics and making traffic policy. It seems like accidents are going down, even with our expanding population. I now want to talk about how the intersection is ranked in terms of danger. The preamble to the public consultation survey calls 88th Avenue and King George Boulevard the most dangerous intersection in Surrey. This is a problem, as the ICBC data does not provide for usefully categorizing the severity of a crash. Only the TIS data does. TIS data, on the other hand, indicates that 88th and King George Boulevard is the 10th most dangerous intersection in Surrey when we consider data from 2016 to 2019. On the other hand, data from Cosmos, the city's own data service, has 88th and King George Boulevard tied for the 13th most dangerous intersection in the city, if we include only the past 7 months. So when I and many others first heard the crash statistics being used to justify this project, we were a bit taken aback. They made 88th and King George Boulevard seem like a scene of near constant carnage. We assumed that if the crash statistics are accurate, then we should be hearing about it all the time, which we weren't. So on this slide, we have 2 sample news stories from recent years ranking problematic intersections. You can see in the global news list on the left using 2019 data that 88th and King George doesn't even crack the top 10. In the Vancouver Sun article, we see 88th and King George showing up as number 10. Regrettable, of course, but not the problem the city is making it out to be. So where do we go from here? Well, let's not amputate before using antibiotics. And what I'm saying here is if a wound is infected and left untreated, it might become necessary to amputate a limb. If it is treated with antibiotics, however, the limb can be saved. We, as a city, have those antibiotics. We can save the park. And those antibiotics are Vision Zero. Vision Zero is a very robust and ambitious plan that follows best practices in traffic and safety management. There are a number of strategies that are suggested by Vision Zero, which I do not have the time to get into, but I would like to highlight just one that is extremely relevant to the intersection we have been discussing. So this text and this image is taken from the city's Vision Zero page about fully protected left turn signals. With 80% of casualty crashes occurring at intersections, fully protected left turn signals are presented as a key pillar in tackling collisions in Surrey. There is a rich but fairly specialized literature on the effectiveness of fully protected left turn signals. I've included numbers from just one study that tracked upgrades to intersections at numerous New York locations. These improvements allowed for a type of natural experiment where different intersection designs can be compared against each other and against overarching safety trends to show what intersection designs are safest. These numbers, which you can see here, are the results of that study. A substantial decrease across all 5 types of accidents they've tracked where fully protected left turn signals were installed. It is the most effective type of intersection upgrade. If you look at these stats, you can see that they cause a 77% reduction in left turn crashes. This would take a huge bite out of accidents at the intersection in question. Now, if we go over to the Vision Zero page, we get a list of intersections which have either been upgraded already or which are slated for being upgraded. At the top of that list is the intersection that is at the heart of this matter. While scheduled for fall 2020, as the website graphic indicates, staff has confirmed to me that this scheduled eastbound-westbound fully protected left turn signal was never actually installed. So, given the effectiveness of fully protected left turn signals, we have to ask, why build a road that will critically damage an important park when the city could instead follow through with Vision Zero? And now I'd like to pass it on to Deb Jack, who's going to talk about the reason we want to stop this road, protecting the park. Go ahead, Deb.
Good afternoon. The Sustainability Charter 2.0 Ecosystem Desired Outcome DO4 residents support biodiversity conservation. And the April 2021 Earth Day proclamation included, quote, whereas Earth Day is an annual reminder of the constant need for environmental activism, unquote. Your corporate report R057 includes 2 desired outcomes to support the first phase of the proposition to rip open a high-value biodiversity ecosystem called Bear Creek Park, inclusive of the unopened part of 84th Avenue between 140th Street and King George Boulevard. In contrast, we note 8 desired outcomes and 2 strategic directions in the Charter, 4 strategy actions of the Climate Adaptation Strategy, and the 4 key principles of the Biodiversity Conservation Strategy, which oppose the proposition. Particularly, the infrastructure goal of the Charter states, effective infrastructure and services that meet the current and future needs of the city while protecting the natural environment and supporting urban growth. And Climate Adaptation Strategy actions EC 1.3 reduce habitat fragmentation by using and protecting larger natural areas hubs. And E 3.1 apply Surrey standards for streamside setbacks. Class A is 30 meters. Your proposition does not comply. We had and have noted several declarations by the mayor concerning environment importance, council commitment as stewards of our parklands and natural habitats, and taking bold action to improve the health and resilience of Surrey's ecosystems. So destroying Bear Creek Park's ecosystem integrity is a confusion for citizens. Bear Creek Park in a greater context, everywhere on the planet we are experiencing existential crises. 3 are climate crisis, the curse that keeps on taking, species extinction, and biodiversity extinction, a biodiversity crisis. Native pollinators are required for food production and they are declining. Insects as native bees, mostly ground dwelling and solitary. Migratory rufous hummingbirds, which have declined 60%, just for examples. Quote, a simple and terrifying proposition. Humanity is destroying the life support system of planet Earth, unquote. Graham Saul, Executive Director, Nature Canada. The world as we knew it is over. Connectivity needs to be ensured as so much of the planet is highly fragmented. Intact nature is a necessity for humanity. Professor Sir Partha Dasgupta, Nobel laureate, completed the Economics of Biodiversity review for the UK government. Biodiversity is seen to be an asset, not liability. Quote, nature is a blind spot in economics that we ignore at our peril, unquote. So instead of being seen to be disposable, discounted, and disregarded, biodiversity is recognized as a fundamental asset, and accounting methodologies are being developed. Did you know that with traffic noise, nestlings cannot hear their parents? Other jurisdictions are closing roads the world over. An example is Vancouver's Stanley Park and Point Grey roads. They understand you cannot build out of congestion and that the past is not a prologue. Bear Creek Park in 2019, Parks did a survey and 62% said they liked walking best in the park. It is fabulous for forest and natural area walking, especially in the south. Carbon. Offsets. 1 ton emitted, 1 ton avoided by, for example, building wind farm or evade deforestation. However, the original ton of carbon, quote, is still out there wreaking havoc, unquote. What to do? Existing CO2 needs drastic reduction via forests and their complexity, wetlands, open areas with shrubs, grasses, and soil, even water. Bear Creek has it all. It is an urban carbon sink. The fact is, nature cannot read. Unaware of map lines, nature went ahead over a quarter to 3/4 or even more of a century, constructing an ecosystem. The biodiversity conservation strategy describes it as a large protected forested natural area, including a number of high-value creeks. Rated high value for biodiversity and designated an important large hub. It encompasses unopened 33 feet as nature created the ecosystem, part of our life support. Joining the hub is a significant corridor from the southeast, the hydro right-of-way. Thus, we have a highly interconnected hub of high value, fragmented only by 140th at this time. Opening 84th will destroy the integrity of a high-value biodiversity ecosystem. The destruction absolute, the guts torn out, huge forest trees, extensive understory, water issues about natural seepages, etc. Picture a square-headed tadpole, the tail of the creeks to the south, with their 30-meter setbacks cut off, then a wide strip totally cut away. Mitigation is not possible, the loss absolute, sort of like a killing field. Lots of life exists below the Earth's surface. Trees communicate via fungi and thousands of kilometers of mycelium, helping other trees and other tree species. Where is the dominant, the mother tree? Is she to be offed as well? And for however wide that slice, negative edge effects averaging 50 meters each side will impact plants and animals, further altering the ecosystem. Staff foresight to acquire parkland south of the original site to expand park experiences and protect ecosystem values is a wonder. That allowed nature to do its thing unimpeded. Aren't we unbelievably fortunate this natural wonder is so close to Surrey's downtown, so accessible? Annually, salmon and trout return to spawn. Visitors can watch migration, smell the forest, breathe in rich fresh air, hear birds, hear creeks. You cannot hear that with traffic noise close by. Bear Creek Park is unique with an interface of 5 habitat types rarely found in urban parks. Old fields, wet meadow, forest, riparian, and creeks. Wildlife includes slugs, nesting eagles, mice, moles, voles, variety of birds including raptors, amphibians, reptiles, river otter. With 84 through, we could expect a lot of roadkill, especially owls. In the southern fields are now Cooper's hawk, red-tailed hawks, harriers, and others. Where is the refuge for all of the displaced creatures if you proceed with your plan? Every spring, migratory birds arrive. April 16th, 27 species were identified and logged into eBird. Chattering, zipping across trails at knee length. Where will they go? Nesting habitat gone. Noise, trucks at knee level for collision. Habitat change, degraded. We must remember that for sustainable biodiversity, the bigger the area, the better. The less interrupted, say by trails even, the better. The fewer edge effects, the better. Southern Greater Bear Creek Park is quiet and serene, excellent for wildlife viewing and quiet contemplation, a priceless treasure and experience. Physicians are fully aware of nature's health benefits. Blood pressure and cortisol levels reduce, minds relax, negative emotions calm, learning improves. Exposure helps with depression. Numerous scientific studies show a direct relationship between improved human health and preservation and protection of access to natural areas. During COVID, people have been encouraged to go to parks. Where the road opened, lovers of the park and the walks will have deep feelings of grief and loss, exacerbating any COVID-induced emotions. Often such grief and loss lasts a long time and people won't return to the park. This is a grave consequence. Research shows 80% of Canadians live in or near urban centres and 95% of their time is indoors. Bear Creek Park can persuade them out. Three Sides has transit already. King George, 88th and 140th. A bridge would produce permanent shade, no growth underneath, and lots of garbage. Assuming it would be steep, it would produce speeders. All parks are places of social equality. People may be strangers, but they're companions of the park, often acknowledging one another in passing. As our population grows, city center becomes more densified. We will need more parks, large ones like Bear Creek, not reduced in size, and none as special or valuable. Presently, the park is protected by gates.
Deb, I have to step in. You're quite a ways over your time limit, so could you please summarize?
Okay. If you open 84th, that's going to leave the park open 24/7 without being protected the way it is at present. In Surrey, we go around to protect and preserve the agricultural land reserve and water courses. That's not a problem. So why can we not protect parks and the biodiversity values that are there? Why does it seem that parks are available to fracture and to rend asunder for vehicles? What motive thought in the 21st century says fixing a road with problems by building another road to make it so? That makes no sense. The Bear Creek Park is ours, a natural heritage. It's imperative we not risk its health and integrity. And it's our obligation to provide for future citizens to practice true sustainability. So if we exercise a 21st century vision, Surrey could assert that Surrey, the future lives here. We go around to protect, conserve, enjoy, and benefit from our agricultural lands and natural heritage. Let us be amongst the leaders to see biodiversity as our collective asset, moving boldly into the 21st century, a time with no precedent. Were Bear Creek Park a lake, we would go around it. Just because you can build a road doesn't mean you should. We rely on you to make the right 21st century decision and permanently close the highway 84th Avenue between 140th and King George Boulevard. Because if you cannot preserve biodiversity here, then where, without any losses? And if not now, when? We thank you for the opportunity to speak to the preservation of the high-value biodiversity area at Bear Creek Park and remind you that we oppose the opening of 84th Avenue, 140th Street to Bear Creek or to King George Boulevard. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation, both of you. The next delegation is Stephen